through the storms, the rain. So thank you all for being here. I want to start by taking attendance to those calling in, and I'll call the names from the RSVP list that I have. Let's see where, okay, got it. All right, Spike, are you on the line?
I am indeed.
Yay, okay, Allie Sirota.
I'm here.
Yay, all right, I heard, oh, Thurman, is Thurman on the line?
Yes, I'm here.
Excellent. Tom Mulroy, I heard you chime in. Thank you. Dan Fuller?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Was that Dan Fuller or was that Tom? That's Tom. Dan Fuller? Okay.
No.
No. Ashley Graff? Okay, Mark Doerr. Ron?
I'm here.
Great. Ron Offner?
Good morning.
Morning. Lisa Burns? Okay. Corey Fram?
Good morning.
Good morning. Richard Stone? No. Okay. Anybody else on the phone that we haven't called?
Hi, Christina. It's Helen Ames from Finn Partners joining on the phone today.
All right. Terrific, Helen. Thank you. Okay. All right. So thank you all. For those on the phone, I just want to note that we're going to be placing you on mute. So just to eliminate the background noise. So if you want to say something, just press *6, and then you'll be unmuted. And once you're finished with that, with comments, you can hit #6. #5. Okay. And that'll place your. There we go. No. Okay, so then for some reason it's not working, so I'm just going to ask you all to just.
Yeah, I muted us.
You muted us. Okay. We still hear a lot of background noise on the phone, so if you are on the phone. And
That's *5, not #5.
Actually, that works good. Okay, never mind. Okay.
I'm like Jesse.
All right.
I was hitting pound.
So we're going to go around the room, and I'm going to start with folks on my right. David, you're our special guest today, so we're going to hear from you. But introduce yourself.
I am David Correa. I'm one of the event managers at NYC Pride, or Heritage of Pride. I'm very excited to be here. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Great. Catherine Nichols, Tourism Advisory Council, and also on the NISCA Council.
Bob Provost, New York State Tourism Industry Association.
I'm Greg Marshall with Visit Rochester.
I'm Randy Borscheid, the Archive of New York City Cultural Policy at the New York Public Library. If you can get all those words right.
Good morning. Shanique Costin with I Love New York, Vice President of Experiential Marketing.
Kristen Hannafin, Lake George Convention Visitors Bureau.
Eleanor Tatum, TAC.
Good morning. I'm Chris Haywood. I'm the Senior Vice President of Global Communications with NYC & Company. Thank you so much for having me here today.
Welcome, Chris.
Hello, I'm Danae Jones-Persip. I'm a Public Information Specialist for I Love New York.
Sarah Emmert with I Love New York.
Kelly Garofalo, I Love New York.
I'm Chris Guidone. My company is Big Picture Tourism. Pleasure to be here.
Hi, Russ Levi, Executive Director of Tourism for I Love New York.
Dave King. I'm with the Legends Attractions World Observatory on behalf of Anna Karnowski.
Hi, good morning. I'm Matt Colbert. I'm the Director of New York, New Jersey Strategy at United Airlines.
Hi, Tom Martinelli from Amtrak New York by Rail.
Hi, I'm Adam Kilduff. I'm the Assistant Press Secretary of the PC.
Okay, we got everybody. You should have received a copy of the minutes from Kelly for the TAC members. Are there any changes proposed? Can I have a motion to approve the minutes? Catherine Nichols, second. Okay, Kristen. The motion carries. Oh, wait, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Any opposed? All right, the motion carries. Minutes are approved. So Happy New Year. This is our first meeting of the year, and we're starting it not with a snowstorm but with a rainstorm. So everybody can get one of these handy dandy I Love New York caps for your way back. So we keep you covered. We'll start today with a report from Ross Levi, followed by an update from Kelly, our director of, is Kelly here?
She's going to be on the phone.
She's going to be on the phone, okay. Director of Market of New York Grant Program, and the Market Round New York 8 Awards, which were announced just prior to the holiday break. Afterwards, we'll hear from our two guests. David Carrera, the Heritage of Pride, and Chris Haywood from NYC and Company, and they'll be telling us about their respective plans for World Pride and how they've been marketing the event both to domestic and international travelers. Finally, Ross will jump back in to give us the most recent updates on I Love New York World Pride events, which is very exciting. I got to attend the lunch last week and with the press, and it was really terrific. 2 items from my report. First, we have a statutory member of the TAC Committee, Senator Jose Serrano. Senator Serrano was elected as the chair of the Senate Cultural Affairs, Tourism, Parks, and Recreation Committee last November. Ross and I are currently in the process of setting up a meeting with the senator to brief him on all the things about travel and tourism, and I Love New York. Second, Governor Cuomo's 2019 State of the State was on Tuesday, January 15th. As many of you know, this is when the governor outlines his 2019 agenda. As in years past, the governor emphasized the importance of tourism to the state's economy and the returns the state is seeing from its investment in the industry. The governor is committed to continuing the state's investment in tourism and has proposed the following related items for tourism. Number 1, investing $150 billion in infrastructure projects over the next 5 years. This would build on the existing $170 billion commitment from his first 2 terms for renovations of our airports, railroads, parks, fairgrounds, and conference centers. A $750 million investment for Round 9 of the Regional Economic Development Council Arts, with a proposed $15 million of that allocated for Market New York. 3, building a world-class sports complex in downtown Utica, the Nexus Center. The facility will host ice hockey, box lacrosse, soccer, and other field sports. It will focus on attracting out-of-town tournament participants year-round, while also catering to local, local athletes looking for practice and training space. Number 4, continuing to invest in tourism across the state by maintaining an investment of $59 million for the promotion of tourism through I Love New York programs. To build off the success of the governor's airport initiative and drive travel through our recently upgraded airports, a new promotional campaign will showcase regional attractions and destinations. Through paid and owned media, the campaign will highlight tourism assets as well as the ease of travel through the newly modernized airports and transportation hubs. Increasing year-round tourism for upstate New York through world-class attractions at our state, mountains, and Olympic facilities. Last year, Governor Cuomo committed $50 million in capital to continue improvements at our Olympic facilities at Whiteface, Gore, and Bel Air Mountains, which make New York the most competitive for winter recreation and large sporting events. While our mountains and facilities face the challenge of aging infrastructure, outdated technology, and out-of-state competition. To further advance our position as a global sports center and tourism destination, Governor Cuomo proposes that the state support revitalizing facilities, making critical infrastructure improvements, and adding year-round attractions at our Olympic facilities and ski resorts. 6, continuing the revitalization of New York State Fairgrounds to make it a year-round destination. 7, making New York State a premier eco-tourism destination. This proposal will aim to deliver a superior visitor experience on all New York State lands open to the public for recreational purposes, promote the state's world-class public and private offerings to travelers interested in outdoor tourism, and strive to develop sustainable practices which protect the recreation experience and natural resources while building capacity within the communities to accommodate visitors. To complement the governor's Empire State Trail, a sister water trail will be developed, linking over 1,700 miles of navigable state waterways together with consistent branding and website development. New York will also increase promotion of the world-class fishing opportunities by launching the Governor's Fishing Challenge competition. New York will also invest in safe and environmentally friendly transportation options, launching electric shuttle systems and installing additional electric vehicle charging stations for visitors in heavily traveled areas and popular state-owned destinations. And 8, expanding parks and the Empire State Trail in the Hudson Valley. It's clear that the governor has and continues to make tourism a priority in his agenda, and we thank him for his continued commitment. That's pretty robust. It certainly shows the support of tourism, and I Love New York. I'm happy to answer any questions, but that's my report. Okay. Well, thank you. Now I'm going to turn it over to Ross, and you can update us all on the winter marketing campaign.
Great, thank you. And before I do that, I just want to echo how satisfying it was to see tourism well represented in the State of the State. You've heard me say this for a number of years. I actually wasn't at the State of the State in person this year because I was at the LGBT World Pride Media Lunch that Christine was referring to, and this is only the second State of the State I've missed in person since 1997, I think. So with that history, I can tell you that there were decades, or at least a decade plus, where tourism was nary a mention anywhere in the State of the State. And this year, when they were working on the State of the State last fall, winter, and there wasn't specific tourism stuff, we got a proactive outreach from the chamber where they said, well, we got to have tourism. And so we worked with them to make sure that part was in there. And so that's very satisfying to know that this is really integral in what the governor and the chamber does, that they're not only aware of what we do, but they prioritize what we do, is obviously satisfying for the staff. I hope it is equally satisfying for the TAC and hopefully for our industry as well. It bodes well that the investment remains at its historic high levels. So good things ahead. So you can't necessarily tell it by the weather outside of New York City today, but we are here in winter, which means our winter tourism marketing continues. As you heard at our last meeting, this started early on, literally right after Thanksgiving, at least in terms of the website and social media and other things. But we're glad now that we're also on air with commercials. Hopefully you've seen them, but in case you haven't, there's 2 of them. So let's take a quick look at those.
This winter, find what you love in New York State. Plan your winter escape at iloveny.com. This winter, find what you love in New York State. Plan your winter escape at iloveny.com.
So these 2 ads continue our approach over a while now of having one that is sort of anthemic in nature and a little bit more of a travel log, showing you like just a lot of New York State, and the other one focusing a lot more on the emotional connections. Not that it's not showing attractions as well, that's how you do that, but you'll notice, for example, in the first ad, there are lots and lots of close-ups of families holding hands and looking in awe at things and great things like that. And that's because of our market research tells us of the importance of that when people, the main impetus for people traveling is to spend time with the people they love. And so that's one of the things we have to sell. It's not just selling great skiing, but the idea of your family is going to make amazing memories that will last the rest of your life. It's going to be an opportunity for your family to actually unplug and be together. And so those are the things we were trying to connote through those 2 ads. As usual, they're running in our 5-hour drive time radius, and they'll be on market pretty much through March so that we can really wring all we can out of the winter season. The ski slopes tell us that spring is actually becoming more and more important. And it's actually, the ski season is going longer, that people like it, that it's warm, but snowmaking has gotten to such a technological level, and that's particularly true here in New York. There's been tons of investment in ski slopes. I think this year, more investment in, I think a historic level of investment in ski making at the New York slopes. So that allows people to go out, when the weather's actually starting to get warm, but ski in sort of March and April. So we're going to be on air through that time to achieve that. So other winter advertising, wanted to keep you up to date on some of the industry activities that we've been up to. We went to the quarterly meeting of the New York State DMO Association. They meet about quarterly, and so they along with NISTIA, Bob's here from NISTIA, and NISTA with Mark on the phone, are some of our most important general tourism trade groups in the state. So we like to stay in touch to make sure we're hearing the concerns of the industry, letting them know what we're doing, and trying to find opportunities to cooperate together. An important development from that group is they announced their new president, Don Jeffries. Some of you may know him as the CEO and president of Visit Rochester. They have a rotating schedule where everybody gets to be the president of that. So it's Don's turn, and he'll be remaining president through 2020. And in fact, we're hoping to have Don and Bob join us again at the next meeting, so that we could hear a little more from our trade groups and what they're up to. I also went to the annual meeting of Sullivan County Visit the Catskills on December 6th at the Hurleyville Arts Center. I addressed and spoke to everybody there about the importance of tourism in New York State and in Sullivan County in specific. And while I was there, before that meeting, I was able to do a site visit for the new Cartwright Resort and water park, which I think we've talked about at previous meetings. It's an incredible facility, which is on schedule to open in March. And any of you have ever seen these construction projects, you're always, and it's true for houses, for your house improvements too, you're like, it's never going to happen on time, it's never going to happen, and then it like all comes together in the last 2 weeks. But they're pretty far along, and the water park itself is spectacular. I think it's 36,000 square feet. It's huge, with a glass roof where you can get a suntan or sunburn year-round. But that's not all. It's a full resort with laser tag in the basement and bowling alleys and 3 restaurants on site, and it's literally down the street from Resorts World Casino. They have contracted, I'm told, or are contracting with a local babysitting service, so it could be a great experience for the whole family in a number of different ways. So it was a great opportunity to be able to see that. I also, so then that's what sort of looking back in December. Looking forward, there's a couple of trade events coming up. This Sunday, I'll be here for the weekend for the New York Times Trade Show, and on Sunday I'm heading to Louisville, Kentucky for the American Bus Association's annual marketplace. This will be the first time that New York State has been at that event in a number of years, and our industry partners are thrilled that we're going to be able to have a presence there. I will be speaking, as a matter of fact, I'll be emceeing a breakfast that's done for the trade operators. New York State hosts a breakfast, all our partners, to tell them about all the exciting stuff happening in New York. Their theme this year is the Year of Love, playing on Stonewall, but even more so the Woodstock anniversary. And I hear we're going to be wearing tie-dye concert T-shirts with all our names on the back. And very excitingly, I hope I'm not spilling any beans, I'm getting to introduce Melanie, the woman who performed I've Got a Brand New Pair of Roller Skates, You Got a Brand New Key, who performed at Woodstock, and she'll be performing for our guests there. So that'll be a fun event. You know, and more importantly, it will give us a chance to connect with the bus, the motor coach industry, which is important to our state, of course. And then in mid-February, we will be attending the International Mediterranean Tourism Market Show. And that is actually way overseas in Israel. You may have remembered the Global Path Through History initiative that the governor announced when he went to Israel a little while ago now. And the cooperative idea was that through a partnership, New York and Israel would be promoting important historic sites to the other's country's market. And so Israel would be promoting here to get folks to go to Israel, of course, and we would be doing the opposite, going to Israel to get people to go to New York. And so as part of that, we are going to be having a presence at this really big trade show, doing a lot of speaking there. It'll be a really great chance to show off New York to a market that we don't have a lot of exposure to. So we're looking forward to that. So that is the overview of what I've been working on.
Terrific, Ross. Any questions for Ross or about the ads or the travel schedule? He's a very busy guy. I know. Well, best of luck.
Busy
to you.
team.
Yeah,
Thank you.
No, it's good. Kelly is on the line. Danae, are you going to give the report?
I'm going to do the New York Times travel show
Okay,
report.
terrific. All right, excellent.
So it is starting tomorrow. We have trade day on Friday, and then Saturday and Sunday we open up to consumers. This is our first year as an official sponsor of the New York Times Travel Show, which has been really exciting. So we'll have our logo all over the place on the bags. It was on the web banner. We got some media placement based upon this sponsorship. And then we're also participating in quite a few different panels. Ross will be speaking on a Focus on the USA panel with Visit California and Visit North Carolina. So they're going to talk about different things like new developments and best experiences in those places within the United States, because there's a pretty nice market international there. So to let them know that they, don't go on a cruise, stay here in the U.S. So we're also going to have a few LGBTQ promotions happening throughout the weekend with Man About World. Ross is going to do a Facebook Live, so you guys will have to go to their page and get his view count up.
Yeah, we want to go viral, so tune in on
We want him to have that number.
Do we know what time?
And also, we've invited Legoland in conjunction with the Family Travel Association to come and spend a couple of hours in their booth, kind of talking about different family vacations in New York State and kind of hyping up the whole Legoland thing that is coming. So the Family Travel Association has their own section, and they have lots of exciting things to do, but they did ask us if we had a partner that we wanted to invite. So, of course, we did Legoland. We are also doing a culinary presentation this year, which is the first time since I've been involved with the New York Times Travel Show. And Ithaca is Foodies, which is kind of like a food tour. It's a really cool business that she has, but she's going to come and do a presentation on different things, different types of food that are regionally specific to the Finger Lakes. Ross is going to do a kind of an introduction and talk about other food within New York State. But so it'll be really exciting, like just to talk about the unique food and beverages that are available in our state from a tourism point of view. And we also have two Meet the Experts. So Metro North and Canals will be meeting with consumers over the weekend and discussing different ways to help people plan their vacations and make it easier to kind of get around New York and see different things. And this year we have the most partners in our aisle. We have 19 New York State partners all in one row. It's going to be fully branded. It's going to look so fantastic, as you can see on our rendering over here. So we're going to have our 4 arches, we're going to have these really cool balloons, and all of that space is going to be filled with all different New York State attractions. And each year we kind of get like one more. So it's been really great to see how it expands every year and how much our partners enjoy participating in this show and find it valuable. That's my report.
Thanks, Nick. And I'll also add that actually one of the primary reasons we did the sponsorship, although we did get some really great exposure and ads and all kinds of value add in terms of people being aware that we're there and what New York has to offer, the main reason was to make sure that we could have a really great presence on the floor. That's how we were able to have a unified aisle, because some years you'd have like half of an aisle and then trickle over on the side, and also really good placement. As soon as you walk in, you'll see us. So we're very excited about it. It should be a great weekend.
Mm-hmm. That's great. I can remember just a few years back, we weren't even at the New York Times Travel
Correct.
Show. We weren't at ABA. We weren't at, I Love New York had a small presence at these travel shows, and it's really encouraging to see how the marketing has really expanded. So great work, team.
Thank you.
Terrific.
Another important development since we met last was the announcement of the Regional Economic Development Council Awards, the REDCs, which, as the name implies, is all about economic development. But a key piece of that is tourism. In particular, the Market New York funds, which go to support tourism initiatives across the state. Kelly Beccarizzo on our team manages both our matching funds program and Market New York, and I believe she's on the phone to give us an update of where we're at. Kelly, can you hear us, and can we hear you?
Do I hit star 5 to unmute? Are you
Hold on,
sure?
I think we have to unmute our phone. Kelly, are you there? No, not yet.
I just heard I was unmuted. Can you hear me now?
We can. You are there.
Good morning, Christine, and to the TAC members and guests. For those of you who may not be familiar with the Regional Economic Development Council, they're otherwise known as the REDC. They were established in 2011 by Governor Cuomo as a new mechanism of doing economic development in New York State, focused on bottom-up instead of top-down economic development planning. There are 10 economic development regions, which are a little bit different from the 11 tourism regions that we may be used to. And each of these are made up of the REDCs. Those REDCs are then made up of business leaders, academics, elected officials, and many of the councils have specific tourism work groups. The CFA, otherwise known as the Consolidated Funding Application, is one online application that allows applicants to apply for multiple streams of state economic development monies through one process. This year's awards were announced December 18th, and in 2018, collectively over $750 million in state resources were made available to support the economic development priorities across the state. Market New York is one of the 30 available grant programs, and it's a subset of the overall CFA. It was started specifically to strengthen tourism and to attract visitors to New York State through the promotion of destinations, attractions, and special events. Funding through the Market New York grant program is available for marketing projects, capital projects, and special events, including meetings, conventions, conferences, festivals, agritourism and craft beverage events, athletic competitions, and consumer and industry trade shows. Initially, when Market New York first started, we began 7 years ago, there was just $3 million available. It has since grown to $15 million each of the rounds and is collectively awarded $80.5 million through the most recent round of REDC funding. That $15 million of Market New York funding was awarded just this past December, and it went to 61 tourism projects throughout the state. As a note, there were close to 200 applicants again, indicating that there's still a continued interest and need for the funding of this program. Those 61 projects were broken down into close to $7 million for marketing projects in 46 different regional recipients. Close to $8 million was made available to the capital projects in 14 different recipients. Up to $1.4 million was awarded to support the 2019 World Pride Stonewall 50 special events. And up to $1.7 million was awarded to support agritourism and craft beverage projects. We pulled out a few of the most notable, or maybe fun, tourism projects that we received awards during this last round. One of my personal favorites is the World Surf League. I just think this is so exciting. New York Professional Surfing Competition is going to be brought to Long Island. So if anyone who's a fan of surfing, if Kelly Slater gets off the injured list, he will be in New York State. And I think that's just exciting for the state as a whole. That will get that coverage and visitation. Another project is the Hudson Valley Esports Invitational and Expo in the Capital Region. This is a huge gaming competition that has just become such a popular e-sport or sport that I'm told is going to be featured on ESPN. So this is another really new and unique event for not only the Capital Region but for New York State. The Corning Museum of Glass. The Corning Museum of Glass is going to be
Keep going, Cal. You got some background noise, but go ahead.
Okay. All right. Sorry. The Make Your Own Glass expansion is a capital project, a construction project in the Finger Lakes, which is going to be a really great construction tourism-related project that they're going to expand their glass-making facility at this destination. There's going to be a craft brewing, a very unique event, craft brewing exhibition and signature event Hop Seago in the Mohawk Valley region, which will be featuring the agritourism craft beverage component of the grant program. Another really fun project is going to be the promotion of the Universal Hip Hop Museum in the New York City in the Bronx. I actually had Curtis Blow talking to us on the phone the other day. He's one of the notable hip-hop artists, and that was pretty exciting to be able to talk to him about how motivated and excited he is to be able to bring this project to New York State and the New York City region. And then finally, one of our last examples is Luma, New York. It's a waterways mist projection art festival in the Southern Tier. That they were there. The Luma was in the Southern Tier last year with a similar projection festival. This year is going to have a waterway and a water element, and it's just going to be something really unique and fun for the Southern Tier. A full list of the Market New York awards and all of the other awards to the other agencies can be found on the Governor's Regional Council site. That site is www.regionalcouncils.ny.gov. And an important note that the $15 million for Market New York is only one small piece of the REDC projects that influence tourism. Over $176.4 million for 260 projects were also granted to substantial tourism-related projects through the other agencies that I spoke of and the other grant programs.
Great. Thank you, Kelly. Yeah, and I think, I want to emphasize that point that tourism has become more and more prominent in the REDC process. As Kelly was saying at the beginning, we had a little chunk from Market New York, and then that grew. But equally significant, I've been to each one of the awards ceremonies for the REDCs, and the first year, I'm not sure tourism was mentioned. If it was an aside. Then, a few years later, it was actually mentioned here and there, so that was nice and exciting. And this year, I was so impressed that there was an opening video, and then before each region got its award, there was another video. I'm pretty sure everyone mentioned tourism. Some of them led with tourism. Some of them had tourism as part of their thing. Not that we're competitive about it, right? But it is just exciting to see, we are New York's 4th largest industry. 3rd, actually, as of last year, right? Yep. We went from 4th to 3rd. So it only makes sense that if you're going to talk about economic development, you have to feature tourism prominently. And actually, I wanted to show you, it's only 2 minutes long. I wanted to show you the opening video that opened the ceremony. This is just one example of how you can see tourism fits into the overall economic development picture for the state.
In 2011, the 10 regional economic development councils were born. Governor Cuomo charged each region with harnessing their own unique qualities and developing them into a long-term plan for economic growth. Growth in jobs, infrastructure, housing, and tourism. A laser-focused approach that is working all across the state. This is the story of then and now.
I can make your hands clap.
Welcome to the 2018 REDC Awards.
As you can see, when they were showing those individual projects for each region, you know, we were a healthy percentage of them. And it really went the gambit from, you know, infrastructure like train stations to attractions. You saw the Comedy Center, to agritourism. There were breweries that you could go and visit, lodging, a few different hotels. So it was very satisfying to be there and see that, and shows, in fact, the presence we're having in all of the state's economic development work.
Very good. Questions? We had a couple of folks join us since we took roll call, so I just wanted to make sure no one was, and for the sake of our guests, you know who's in the room. Anna, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, Anna. I love New York. Sorry I'm late.
Okay.
Matthew Steen, Marketing Manager, Emerson Resort.
Tamara Murray, Emerson Resort Spa.
Rick Remsteiner, Ulster County Tourism Director.
Natasha.
Hi. Natasha Caputo, Westchester County Tourism and Film, Hudson Valley.
Jill Simonson Luciano, Southwest Airlines.
Anybody else? All right, terrific. Very excited now to welcome David Correa and Chris Haywood. David is one of two event managers at NYC Pride and operates as the lead on all of the talent and hospitality. He joined Heritage of Pride in 2016 after spending almost 10 years with Starwood Hotels and Resorts. During his time at Pride, he has been instrumental in the creation of new events such as the Youth Pride and Game Changers, a forum event that focuses on the journeys of LGBTQIA and members in the entertainment industry. David, we're very happy to have you, and we're looking forward to hearing your presentation.
Thank you. So we have a big year ahead of us. We're very excited. I'll give you a brief overview of who we are at New York City Pride and some of what we have planned. So New York City Pride, thank you. New York City Pride is the 501c3 nonprofit behind all the official Pride events in New York in June. We're an organization that's made up of hundreds, maybe thousands of volunteers, an executive board of 14, 2 co-chairs, 9 full-time staff members, so we're a small house, and seasonal support staff. And we produce, and we're planning on producing, approximately 25 official events in June. So World Pride. We won the bid for World Pride in 2015. World Pride has taken place since the year 2000 in places like Jerusalem, London, Toronto, and in 2021 we'll move on to Copenhagen. So when we pass the key off this year, we'll be passing it off to Copenhagen. We should note that this is the first World Pride to take place in the United States. It was hosted in Toronto in 2014, but this is the first World Pride in the United States. What's extra special about this World Pride is that it coincides with the 50th anniversary of the Stonewall Uprising, what most consider as the jumping off point for the modern day LGBTQ rights movement. So we're expecting the world to descend upon us. We were already expecting large numbers for Stonewall 50, and now we've added that World Pride element. We've been actively working with NYC and Company to help support the events, promote the events, get the word out, and we're seeing a lot of great traction and responses. We rely heavily as a small nonprofit on social media, and we're seeing a lot of traction there. So, as I said, we have about 25 events we're anticipating. A lot of those events are historic events. We'll go through them in a little bit more detail. We call those the core events. And then we have events that are required within the World Pride license that we produce. Those being an opening ceremony, a closing ceremony, and a human rights conference. So this is just a quick snapshot. We have broken our events out into pillars just because they fit thematically with one another. So we have the World Pillar, which includes the opening ceremony, the closing ceremony, and the Stonewall 50 commemoration, which some may also know as our rally. Our rally is one of our historic core events, but we've moved it into this category specifically for the anniversary of Stonewall 50. In the core, we have the march, which is, some may know as the parade, but we don't call it a parade, we call it a march. Pride Fest, which is our street festival. Pride Island, which some may know as the Dance on the Pier, but that was reimagined in 2017, and with great success. We have our family tier. We have Tastemakers and Enlighten, Celebrate, Fit, and Canvas, which I'll go into a little bit more detail later, which is pretty exciting. So within our core pillar, we have the March, Pride Fest, and again, Pride Island. The March takes place on June 30th, and the exact route is not confirmed as of yet, but we're working and planning around the 2018 route. Pride Fest, the location is also still to be determined, also takes place on June 30th. And Pride Island is our 3-day concert series. So formerly known as the Dance on the Pier, which started in 1986. This was reimagined in 2017 to be a 3-day music experience. Not so much a festival, but an experience where folks from the LGBTQ community can find music that fits and suits them. In 2017, Friday was our Legends Night, so we featured Patti LaBelle and Deborah Cox. Saturday has historically been more of our Brooklyn indie fringe. We've had artists like Tegan and Sarah and Tovlo. And then Sunday, we kept the same, the historic Dance on the Pier format with DJs and one huge pop diva. Here, there's plenty of opportunity for employee engagement. We see a lot of organizations that come to us. It's how I found my way to the March. Through working with, I worked at what was formerly Wachovia and found my way into the March that way. Ended up years later volunteering for HMI, and then found my way to NYC Pride. So the March tends to be a gateway. The Pride Fest is a great place for people to just commune. It's great for foodies. It's great for recruitment if organizations are looking for volunteers. And then Pride Island is really about that millennial outreach, grabbing that audience and giving them a safe space. It's all about creating safe spaces for us. Our family events, these are some of my favorites. Family Movie Night is going into its 8th year. It's located on Christopher Street Pier, also known as Pier 45, part of the Hudson River Park Trust. We see about 2,000 attendees. It takes place from 6 p.m. till about, I would say, 10:30, 11, depending on when the film ends. We depend heavily on sunset for that event.
It's the longest day of the year, by the way.
Yes. So we'll be out there for a while. I get there at 6 a.m. and I don't leave till 3 a.m. So we typically screen a Disney film. There's performances from local talent, sponsors, and other organizations, table and booth there. There's face painting, games for the kids. It's a really nice, fun space for LGBTQ families and allies to join and get ready to kick off Pride Week. Youth Pride is a fairly new event. We started this in 2017. Target is our founding partner on this event, and it is geared towards kids 13 to 20 years old. Again, it's all about creating those safe spaces. When I was this age, I didn't have a place to celebrate Pride. I didn't know about Pride till I was much older. And here you see 13-year-olds, a lot of them with their parents, just having a great time. We feature local talent. We work with the Board of Education to feature kids from around the city as performers. And we also bring in bigger names so that the kids know that they're important and they should be proud and have a place to celebrate Pride. Again, it's all about those Instagrammable moments, Gen Z focused. Tastemakers, here we have the Pride Luminaries Brunch, Out Cinema, and Savor Pride. The brunch is a great place for those business professionals to gather. It takes place on the 23rd, so we're right at the head of Pride Week. Out Cinema used to be a one-day screening, and last year we turned it into a film festival. And we try again, just as we did with Pride Island, to touch all the various demographics. We did a film called Selma After Stonewall. Last year, we did a film that focused on the Puerto Rican LGBTQ experience. So it's all about making sure everyone within this wide array, this large community, is seen and heard. And Savor Pride is tasty. We work with God's Love We Deliver on this event. It's a foodie experience event. It's great to network and connect, similar to the brunch, just different format and style. Technique discussions, product demonstrations, employee engagement, again, seems to be across the board for most of our events. In the Enlighten pillar, we have Game Changers, which we mentioned earlier. It focuses on the LGBTQ community within the entertainment industry. Last year, we focused specifically on the transgender experience in the entertainment industry and the successes that they've had there. It was a great panel and a great discussion, and we host that at the SVA Theater. The Human Rights Conference falls within the World Pride license that we have to produce. So we tested it last year with a one-day format, and we are doing two-day format this year. That will be at New York Law School, a series of panel discussions, keynote speakers. I should say that the Human Rights Conference and Game Changers play nicely together. So what we've done this year is we've tagged Game Changers onto the end of the Human Rights Conference, and it will be the unofficial keynote for the Human Rights Conference. And then we are working on an AIDS quilt display. We're currently finding and sourcing locations to feature the AIDS quilt. It's an important part of our history, and it's important that those members of the community that have passed are remembered and are celebrate. So we like to have fun too. We have a lot of party events. One in particular I'd like to highlight is the World Pride Ball, which we are working on now. We've officially decided to make that one of our events. We're looking at June 7th, and it is an event that will feature and highlight the voguing community, which has been a place of refuge for so many, especially those, the people of color community within the LGBT community. The Canvas Experience. This is super exciting. Being that it's Stonewall 50, in a historic year, we are working with the Lisa Project to create 50 murals around the city, including all the boroughs. And we are looking to have those done by June 17th and a map ready to go sometime in April so people can start finding where those will happen, and a launch event on June 1st. We are looking to highlight and feature LGBTQ artists and allies from around the globe. And we do want them, again, in all the boroughs because this is World Pride. And then our world events. So we have the opening ceremony, the closing ceremony, and the Stonewall 50 commemoration, or the rally. Opening ceremony will take place at Barclays Center on June 26th. This is the official kickoff to the big weekend. We are excited, looking into some big names to come entertain and welcome the world. Closing ceremony is June 30th. So June 30th is going to be a big day in the city. And that takes place in Times Square, I would say Times Square North, so near the TKTS booth, shooting north with the ball drop behind the artists that are performing as their backdrop. And then Stonewall 50 commemoration, or the rally, takes place on June 28th. So this is the actual anniversary of the Stonewall Uprising, and we will host the rally in front of the actual Stonewall Inn. Spreading the word. We do a New York City Pride Guide every year. It is the largest LGBTQ publication, or Pride publication. We've had great success with it. As you can see, we've had big names on our Pride Guide. Patti LaBelle, Titus Burgess. We just announced Melissa Etheridge to open our closing ceremony, so she was featured on a special holiday preview edition for us. We do 100,000 hard copies as well as a digital version. These copies go with us to various trade shows around the world. They go with us to other prides. So we make our way around. And then, as I mentioned, social media is big to us. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. This is how we get the word out. This is how we make our announcements in terms of our talent announcements and then new events. We also do an e-newsletter to a large database. And that's how we stay in tune with what people are asking for, who they want to see, where they want to see it, what works, what doesn't work. And then broadcast. So we, in 2017 was a big year of change for us. So we launched the first ever live broadcast of the NYC Pride March. It was a great success. We brought it back in 2018. We're bringing it back in 2019. We worked closely with ABC on this, ABC 7 Local. And we are excited to see potentially extending it an extra hour to make sure that everybody gets seen, or as many people as possible. It's a very long march. And that's it. We'll see you in June. That's it.
Nothing. I'm exhausted just listening to the itinerary.
That's very exciting.
Thank you.
I know some of you may have questions, but I think we should get into. So we go Pride to the city and then to the state, and then we can ask questions. But you know, Chris, I've had the pleasure of knowing for many, many years as the senior vice president and global communications at NYC & Company, where he leads domestic and international public relations efforts. He oversees the organization's global network of 17 international press representatives that serve 28 regions around the world, in addition to leading corporate communications efforts. Just amazing work that you do, always. Before joining NYC & Company as Director of Travel and Tourism Policy in 2007, Chris worked at the Los Angeles Tourism and County Convention and Visitors Bureau for 8 years, from '98 to 2006. So welcome, Chris. There's probably, if anyone's wondering why New York City just set a record of 62.5 million visitors, am I correct?
65.2.
Okay, 65.2.
You were close.
65.2. A lot of that work has to do with Chris and his team just sending the message out that New York is open.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much, Christine, for having me today, and Ross for inviting us. And I'm very happy to be here today and to see you all. Fred Dixon sends his regards. He's in Spain at the Fitur show promoting LGBTQ and World Pride at the LGBTQ Pavilion, but he sends his regards, and we really appreciate being here and supporting, and thanks for your great presentations. So I'll take you through some of the slides that I've got. Hopefully, how are we for time? Are we good for time? I'll try to go quickly. But just to start off, as Christine said, we are enjoying record-breaking territory here in New York, and I know you guys had your numbers out too, so congratulations on those. Last year was a record-breaking year for New York City, 65.2 million. That included 51.6 million domestic and 13.5 million international, so it was an all-time high, the 9th consecutive year of tourism growth for New York, so we're very excited about that. Obviously, as we get into LGBTQ, we want to talk about why this is such an important segment of our economy, and certainly World Pride and the 50th of Stonewall is going to be such a huge catalyst for all of us, for the city, for the state, for everybody, to really put us on the map. But from a domestic and international perspective, this segment represents about 10% of global visitation to New York City. And it's an interesting market overall globally. This is a market that represents $211 billion in global consumer spending. So it's a lot of money and a lot of spend. So it's a market that we should be focused on. And certainly this year is a chance for us to do that. So the traveler is an experienced and avid visitor. They embrace the destination they travel to. You can see some of the statistics up there. But what I wanted to really highlight is the fact that they do stay longer and spend more money, making them a very important and lucrative market for New York City. This is going to be an extraordinary year, as David just said, with World Pride, and what NYC & Company is really trying to do to, highlight this event, but also the 50th of Stonewall, that this is going to be certainly an event that welcomes a lot of people, 3 to 4 million people, I think we're saying now. It was usually, this is an event that welcomes 2 million people. This event, we're saying 3 million, and now people are saying maybe even upwards of 4 million. It could be double the number. And so we are looking forward to certainly highlighting this event, this historic event for New York. But what we're really trying to do also is make it the year of Pride. So if you can't come during the World Pride celebrations, which we hope people can, we want to encourage people to also consider coming to New York City throughout the year. So I think that's great that a lot of your events that you were talking about are throughout the month of June. If they can't be there for that last weekend, they'll be able to come in June, but then they'll also be able to come throughout the year. We've got some great exhibits going on in New York, like the Warhol retrospective at the Whitney that is on through the end of March, and that's the largest in 30 years. So we're hoping to work with the Stonewall 50 Consortium to really highlight all the different events and cultural activity to encourage people to come and make it a year-long program of events that can really spotlight New York City's rich and diverse LGBTQ history, art, and culture. And we have been, you guys got the award, I think, in 2015, but we have been promoting the heck out of this since about 2017. And I will show you a quick video. I know everyone loves videos, so this was a video that we had out in the marketplace to promote this.
I am strong.
I am hilarious. I'm proud.
I'm German.
And I'm Romanian.
I am American.
Human. I am a friend.
I'm a mother.
Brother.
A lover.
I am the Bronx, Brooklyn,
Queens.
Manhattan.
I am Staten Island.
I am a New Yorker.
We are united.
Resilient.
We're persistent.
We are better
Together.
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 Equals.
We are one community.
One world.
One pride.
Together.
We are one.
2019 marks 50 years.
50 years of resilience.
In 2019.
Let's unite
In pride.
Join us
for World Pride in New York City.
There's been a lot of buildup and a lot of momentum that's been created. And as you can see, I'm just gonna, hopefully that will go, kind of lingers on, doesn't it? But in terms of the 2017 promotion, you can see here some of the creative that we've created for the promotions. We've had a number of activations. I think you mentioned World Pride in Madrid. We were there with a double-decker. I've never seen so many people in one place. Honestly, I thought Times Square on New Year's Eve was busy. I've never seen so many people gathered in one place in Madrid. And it was incredible to have New York City there front and center on a double-decker bus promoting our city. We had members of the FDNY LGBTQ community with us as well. You can see some photos here on the screen. You can see our campaign that we were running, One World, One Pride, One New York City. This was the different faces of Pride, and we were very active in the marketplace. You can see the bus there on the top, and you can see FDNY. It was really a great celebration and a great kickoff. So it's been sort of a 2-year effort as we build on this. At that time, we also launched new content on our website at nycgo.com. We had content, but we really needed to step up our game in terms of that. And we're continuing to do that and really trying to add new and different content that appeals to every segment of that LGBTQ. And I think you said some other letters, which I need to get, you did, okay?
No.
And we always say LGBTQ+. So we really want to make sure we're targeting all those people. In terms of press, this has obviously been integrated into all of our messaging. We've had over 30 press events around the world, reaching over 1,000 local and global media. You can see Fred there at IPW, one of our recent press events, announcing 2019 a monumental year, which has been our messaging, really driving urgency for people to want to come to New York during this particular year. It is such a massive year for New York. A lot of large-scale developments and openings in the city like Hudson Yards, the Shed, MoMA's expansion by 1/3, the TWA Hotel at the airport, the Statue of Liberty Museum. I mean, we have so many things going on, but this World Pride and 50th of Stonewall has been a great messaging point. In fact, it just got us into the New York Times. I don't know if you saw, we were named one of the 52 places to go in 2019. And for New York City, our hometown, to be named that, we're very, very proud of that, and they reference World Pride. So I think it is a catalyst. It's putting us on the map globally, and I'm very proud of it. In terms of our other promotion, I mean, obviously last year we've been stepping up our game as well, getting into a lot of the different publications. You can see our messaging here, Pride Uncontained. I'll get into that in a little bit. You can see some of our out-of-home. NYC and Company controls a lot of out-of-home media across the globe, and we donated some of our media to Heritage of Pride to really help you get your messaging out there. And that generated about, that was valued about $262,000 to really give you a little bit of lift to really help the event, and we were happy to do that because it's such a big event. You can also see some of our other publicity. We are in the current issue of Out There magazine, which is an upscale LGBTQ magazine out of London. It just published their current issue. You can see the cover there. We're really excited. It features a lot of great stories about New York City from all around the city. You can see it says Monumental New York City, which our messaging got in there. And then Attitude Magazine for their February 2019 insert is featuring 101 things we love about New York City. And that is a great publication for us to really, again, remind the world that New York is the place to go. In 2018, for the Pride Island festivities, we also did some activations. You can see there at Pride Island, as David was talking about earlier, NYC and Company's marketing team rolled out the first ever NYC Summer Snow Day. And one of our goals is to drive more travel during the first quarter of the year to try to get people to come during the slower periods. That's a strategy of ours to really spread out visitation and so we don't get too overcrowded. But this was a strategy to invite some of the LGBTQ people back during that particular time period. It was quite successful. Fred Dixon, our CEO, was at Proud Experiences in London, which is a trade show that really focuses on the luxury segment. They'll be returning to New York. I'll get into that in a little bit this June, but he was the keynote speaker at the Saatchi Gallery. This is produced by Reed Exhibitions. And then our campaign. As you can see here on the screen, what does that look like? It's Christopher Park, and it is the our refreshed LGBTQ creative. And seeking inspiration, our creative team looked directly to the heart of the movement, the Stonewall Inn in Christopher Park in the West Village, and they created this new campaign. As you can see here, it's all about highlighting that shard and the different facets of pride, and really making sure that the our identity, our campaign identity, is directly inspired by the landscape on which the Stonewall Uprising began. So you can see the logo animation there. We also have a manifesto. I know we're short on time, so I won't read that, but it's all about what happened in 1969 when the club, the gay club, was busted, and what happened and how people fought back, and what Stonewall meant in terms of people really voicing who they are and speaking up. And this is all about pride being uncontained, and how protests turned to pride, and how New York City took its place in history. And so something shattered that night in 1969, and out of the pieces came something infinitely more beautiful. Its impact irreversible, the truth undeniable. So this is all about really, talking about what this really means and bringing that to life a little bit. So we'll see multiple iterations, catering to different audiences in New York City. We'll be deploying the creative to welcome visitors during World Pride Month. And as you can see, some of the creative imagery that we have, different portraits that aim to communicate the celebratory expression of uncontained. There's different takes on it, and our creative team will be looking at these portraits and showcasing the destination in inspiring ways that will also feature a call to action. This was an exciting event that we did in August. We joined forces with our sister city, Amsterdam, to do a joint float. As you can see, the skyline of New York City and Amsterdam, we joined forces to theme the float Heroes in honor of the 50th anniversary of Stonewall. We encouraging everyone to visit New York City for next year. The Pride Boat highlighted the identities of Amsterdam and New York City simultaneously. As I said, you can see it here on the screen, featuring well-known icons from each city and featuring the theme Go West to try to get people to come. So that was a huge event. I wasn't there because I was at another press event in Australia, but my boss was there, and he said it was just incredible. As you can see, there's a lot of bridges, so it's like an inflatable skyline. So when they go underneath the bridges, the balloons go down, and then they come back up. I mean, it's just unbelievable. And the festivities, they said there was nothing like it in terms of the energy of this city. So we're very pleased that Amsterdam was able to pull the stops out for us and give us this very coveted float location. Member engagement, we have 2,000 private members of NYC and Company, and Fred and our teams did a big presentation to really teach them how to cater to this particular group. and I believe Heritage of Pride was there as well, thank you, for different awareness to really teach people how can they get involved in this and how can they make this an important promotion for them. So for 2019, last week we just finished a global media fam where we welcomed media from key markets around the world in partnership with United Airlines. A nice call out to United here for their support of our press trip. We had Spain, Brazil, Germany, Australia, and Mexico. And they got to see a lot of the city and left very energized. And as you say, social media is such a big component of this, and to have those voices starting to create excitement for the events is really going to help us. As you may know, IGLTA is also coming to New York in 2019. It's in a couple months, April 24 through 27. It's the first time that New York City will play host to this International Gay and Lesbian Travel Association convention at the Hilton, New York, and we think it's a tremendous opportunity for us. It's the world's premier educational networking event for LGBTQ tourism professionals. We'll have 600 international hosted buyers, suppliers, and media expecting to attend. So that'll be another touch point. And as I said, Proud Experiences will be coming to the One Hotel Brooklyn Bridge from June 18 through 20 in conjunction with World Pride. And on the corporate level, we're partnering with Virgin Holidays and Virgin Atlantic in an initiative called the Pride Flight. And I've got to show you another video because this is going to just knock your socks off.
Calling all queens to board the Virgin Pride Flight.
Oh, you don't want to miss his flight. Come get fabulous at 30,000 feet.
So this is going to be the first ever LGBTQ flight dedicated solely to travelers and allies. And we are collaborating with the Pride Flight to bring in several media celebrities. We will be showcasing New York City and also the Pride celebrations. We've been talking to Chris Frederick on your team about that, but we want to make sure we position New York City as the most welcoming and inclusive destination among Virgin Atlantic's network. So it's all about, for us, really making sure that New York City opens its arms to welcome the world and make sure that every letter of that LGBTQ+ makes sure that those folks feel welcomed and they know New York City is a place that they can come to and that they'll be welcomed with open arms. So thank you so much for your time. Happy to take any questions. But we appreciate your giving us this time to speak to you.
Chris. This has really been fantastic. The state has a couple of things that they are planning as well that Ross will bring us up to speed.
First of all, it's been very exciting to work with both Heritage Pride and NYC and Company on this initiative. It actually works out really well that you have one group that's focusing on putting on the events and promoting those actual World Pride events, another group that's making the invitation to come to New York City and have this amazing New York City experience, and another group that's saying World Pride is actually a statewide celebration. Not only come for all that excitement, but make it your dream LGBT New York State vacation getaway experience. And as somebody who was a volunteer member of Heritage of Pride way back in the day, I was actually the March training coordinator for Stonewall 25, to date myself. Wow. It's particularly exciting to see just how this has all changed, and to think that all the official entities from the state to the city are rolling out the rainbow carpet, and to say, you know, we're excited. We couldn't be more excited that this is happening here. It's very satisfying on a professional and personal level. So I'm not going to spend too much time because you've heard me talk about our World Pride activities at just about every TAC meeting, and so we wanted to give the majority of the time to our guests. But there are some updates that we just want to let you know that's happened since our last meeting. One was the media lunch you've heard Christine and I reference, was held on Tuesday, January 15th at a restaurant down in the Village, where we wanted to promote the New York City events as well as that statewide scope of things. We formally co-hosted it with New York City Pride, and so it was great to have Chris Frederick there. And we started off with a welcome from our special guest, Billy Porter. You may know him from Pose and Kinky Boots and American Horror Story. He gave a really great inspirational speech. It was amazing. And then Chris and myself had a moderated discussion. Curtis Wong from Huffington Post led us in a discussion to talk about what people could expect coming in the city, what they could expect on the state, and even more just sort of broad stuff, talking about Stonewall and the significance of World Pride. And the goal, of course, was to get the press interested. We had great attendance, over 20 press, including Rolling Stone, NBC News Online, HuffPost, CNN, Billboard, Rolling Stone, Out, Travel Leisure, Metrosource. It was really great, and people were excited to hear everything that was going on. Literally that day, we had our first break in Forbes, I think. The next day in Photos, I think. So it was generating, the event itself generated press, and it also got people excited to be reporting on and talking about everything that's going to be coming up. So we were very happy about that. One of our strategies has been not only to talk about what an amazing vacation destination is, so that people that are coming to World Pride can, at the front end or the back end, have a great vacation, whether it's going to Fire Island or going to wineries in the Finger Lakes. But we also wanted to help spur some special World Pride events across the state as an additional impetus for people to travel outside the city. We continue to work on that effort, but we're happy to announce some events are already locked in and happening. Over on Long Island, actually, I guess this is in chronological order, so we'll do it that way. Starting up in Albany, the Albany Symphony Orchestra is going to be holding an event called Sing Out New York, which is a combination of a music festival and then a series of outdoor concerts. They are commissioning some works by LGBT composers that they'll be premiering as part of this, and they're celebrating not only Stonewall but New York's role as a leader in civil and human rights overall, including the women's movement and also abolition. So that will be happening. The music festival's May 28th through June 2nd, and then the concerts happen between June 6th and 9th. Then in Long Island, Pride on the Beach, Long Beach, which is already a beautiful destination in and of itself, will have another great reason to visit. Literally 30 events in 3 days, which is kind of crazy. Of course, it will have a march and we'll have a festival on the boardwalk, but they also have a lot of great parties, a concert on the beach, which usually gets a big name performer, the annual Pet Pride Parade. You heard that right. You can't have a LGBT Pride event without our kids. And so, yes, and Animal Planet is co-hosting that. And then a couple days later, Pride on the Vines, a wine-focused event on the North Fork of Long Island, a series of tours. And it's a tour with a series of tastings and special events across Long Island to experience wine there. Then moving upstate, the Chautauqua Institution, which we know does great performances and lectures all summer long, is going to have a week with a theme on communities that have made change. And there's going to be a specific event around World Pride. Bishop Gene Robinson, who many of us know, who made world headlines when he came out a number of years ago now as the first openly gay Episcopal bishop in the world. He actually is on staff at Chautauqua. He's there, I forget his title, but he's on staff to sort of oversee their spiritual programs. And so it's a perfect opportunity for him to lead a conversation that will also have a reception at the historic Athenaeum Hotel on site that will be hosted by the Chautauqua's LGBT community group. And then July 5th, and you can see we tried to group this, or encouraged folks to group, so that once people finish in the city, they can take one of those great inexpensive non-stops from New York City on JetBlue and Delta, and to get upstate to do Chautauqua Institution, and then make their way over to Niagara Falls for Pride on the Falls, which will be a free concert by the Buffalo Philharmonic with a fireworks show and the Falls Painted Rainbow. So that should be a great event as well. That's just the beginning of those events. We can't say more, but we're talking to a lot of other people, and everyone's very interested. It's just a matter of how things come together, and we hope to be rolling these out and backing them up. We have an e-newsletter that collects that has all those names that we collected. If you remember that when we went to all those prides around the world, London and LA and everywhere else. Now that we have all those email names, we're reaching out to those folks with a newsletter where we're getting to sort of roll out these events as they happen and get them increasingly excited. When we sent out the first email, the welcome email, we asked folks to indicate whether they were definitely coming or whether they were thinking of coming. And it was very interesting to see that even in January, there was a good chunk of people that were still deciding. So we're not too late in the window in terms of affecting people's behavior to come and make it a really full experience. So our ad campaign is rolling, that email campaign already rolling, social media is already kicking up. There's a lot to do, so we're excited to be working collectively for this region.
This is fantastic, very nice. New York State is certainly lucky to have all of you working together, city, state, Pride. We're going to open it up to questions. I'm going to start off with one quick question. Knowing where Stonewall is, it's a very tight area, and if that's where you're doing your start, how are you planning on dealing with crowds? And will this be televised? Is there an opportunity for it to be televised for people that may not be able to get down into that small space?
Sure.
Can I also add something to that?
Yeah.
You had an estimate, I think, in there of 1,000 people, and I just thought that was also an underestimate.
Oh, because it's so small, I mean.
Right,
probably.
but I also think it's an underestimate
Yeah.
with the amount of people that are coming for Pride in general.
Yeah, is it a ticketed only part?
Specifically for the rally.
Yeah.
So we haven't seen huge numbers there. We used to host the rally for several years on the piers. So the Pride Island format before it existed, we had the piers for 3 days, and Friday, the day of the rally, we would host the rally there. It became overproduced. It became sort of like a mini concert as opposed to a grassroots effort, and kind of strayed from its roots. So in 2017, again, that big year of change for us, we brought it back to the streets. There's so much happening that Friday. There's the Trans March, there's the Drag Queen March, there's our own event of Pride Island itself now happening, which draws crowds. So we haven't seen large numbers there. It's not overly produced. It's speakers from in and around the community that come in to celebrate and to say we're here and we're honoring this day. But last year, I think we saw maybe 500
But
max.
do you mean Sunday, the march, the day of the march?
No, I mean the
sorry.
rally, the
Rally.
kick, because it seems like the kickoff is at Stonewall?
It's actually Barclays.
Is
So,
it okay, so the bar.
No, the Stonewall commemoration is on the 28th.
right.
But I'm just thinking the commemoration on the 50th anniversary is going to be a bigger deal than it would be normally.
I mean, based on what we've seen in past years, we're not
But it's,
anticipating huge.
but it's not, but past years wasn't the 50th anniversary.
Are they closing 7th Avenue? Do we know?
We don't know yet.
Well, you'll be in good hands with.
I'll be a
We'll see
block.
you
I live a
come to
block
help.
away. I live a block away, so I'll see.
We'll
you
just
all.
open Chris's apartment.
Yeah, I'll just open my apartment. Just
Drag
come down.
some cones
Yeah,
out there,
Just
it'll
come
be
down to my
fine.
place.
We take over that whole street, so that strip in the park. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's such an important event, and I think that's where the important speeches are going to be made to bring it back to Stonewall, that if there's anything we can do to help with the, television stations to try to air it live, I think that would be terrific, because then you can also hit an additional audience of people that may not even be inclined to go to a Pride event, but will learn from it.
I wonder if
right?
New York
So
One would take it.
I would hope so.
You know what I
I mean,
mean?
they
Like
do
that.
they do the Halloween parade.
And ABC is doing the march, right? But
ABC
then-
is doing the march.
The march, but maybe for the Stonewall, maybe that's an asset that can be made to New York One
Yeah.
or some other local.
Yeah, and then if it is on New York One, it can go around the state too, because they're owned by charter, right?
That's
so
right.
then it can be picked up in other regions.
It's a great idea.
Yeah. Well, we're hoping that with the diversity of programming that we're producing, and then there's so many
got
other
a lot to
events that
choose
are
from.
happening that we don't really have a hand in.
And maybe Facebook Lives as well. We could look at maybe looking at that for
That's true.
Facebook Live from our channels too. We can talk about that.
And then also just in attendance-wise, I was just looking at the numbers in general that you had, and they sounded just like they were underestimated for a lot of them. And then the Human Rights Conference, which just seems so important, especially right now. And I think you said 500 to 700 attendees for the conference. Again,
Is that a ticketed event?
That is a ticketed.
even as a ticketed event, it just seems like as such an important part of this event and the celebration just seemed low to me.
Well,
Again.
we're spreading it over 2 days.
Right.
And it's earlier in the week. And just historically, and I understand it's a different year this year for us, but historically, we don't really see travelers coming in, especially the local travelers, until that Friday. Just looking, we have set up partnerships with several hotels in and around New York. And Interpride, which is the organization that oversees the World Pride license, we set up blocks specifically for them. And even them at this point, slowly but surely, are starting to book their rooms, are coming in more so for the opening ceremony. That being said, we tested the Human Rights Conference last year. It was a revolving door. And I think we had 200 to 300 people max at any one given time. But there's flexibility and plenty of room, and there is room to grow within the current location.
Any other questions? Were there any plans to do anything at the UN?
There was a partnership last year with the UN for the Human Rights Conference.
Okay.
I'm not sure if that has continued this year, but I know that there have been conversations.
But I mean, the plans just look amazing.
Yeah,
a lot of
thought
so
went into
exciting.
this.
And I think as David alluded to, and this is true for every Pride, and I think it's going to be just exponentially for this, is that, you know, there are the events that are put on by the World Pride, and then there's a universe of events, right? That it's like you're not going to be able to get on a block in this city without something to do connected, I think, for that, certainly that weekend, and I dare say starting that week.
Right. Well, we wish you all the best.
Thank you.
And we'll be there right with you and whatever you need. I mean,
Sure.
this is really terrific. So you're putting such a great emphasis on tourism as part of this, you know? So you gotta
We're excited.
get here to be at the party, right?
Exactly.
So that's all part of tourism.
Make it a week-long vacation, you know.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
Once-
Weeks
Yeah,
go to the
it's the
States.
summer
Yeah.
of
Well,
love.
and I'm-
Come on, Chris, get the summer of love.
Yes,
You're gonna go to
exactly,
Woodstock.
exactly.
You're gonna go up to.
Well,
you know,
I think Chris mentioned at our media lunch that already, at least for the weekend, like hotel bookings are getting hot for the weekend, not for the whole week.
Yeah.
But like I'm hearing like 80–90% occupancy. And so one of the things we're talking to folks about is, you know, party in the city, stay in the country, right? The idea of you can just go up Metro North and stay on the line or out in Long Island. I think there's going to be lots of opportunities.
Tasha's about to jump over the.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Lots of hotels now in the Hudson Valley, so, and the Emerson as well.
That's right.
Well, terrific. This has been robust. We love it. Anyone have new business that we should know about?
Not new business, but just a comment about the commercials. It's just so great to see the diversity in them. You guys have done a phenomenal job.
Well, we heard you from one of the early tech meetings.
Yeah, but just
we got right on
the
that,
change-
Eleanor.
The
So
change has been just
Good.
fantastic, and I've noticed it every single season. And it's just really incredible to see it in the winter time especially. It's really made an impact, and I just
Thank
wanted
you.
to say it's really appreciated.
It's important, obviously. It's important on a lot of levels, but the number one reason actually is it's just smart economic development, right?
Yeah.
Everybody travels.
But it's
So,
noticed, and I just wanted to say
Thank
that.
you.
Right. Well, our next meeting is going to be March 12th in Albany to coincide with Tourism Action Day. We're hoping, Bob, that you can join us at that.
Yes.
Okay, terrific. And then if Don Jeffries could come, Greg, maybe you could put in a good word because we'd love to see him there.
Yes, we're working on his presentation as we speak.
Oh, perfect. Okay, so we're counting on him. We're gonna say yes then. And we're gonna be presenting our 2019 plan, or 1920 plans there. So anybody's welcome to come up to Albany in March. We usually have a snowstorm that day, so but somehow or another we get through it.
I'll also note that that's in conjunction with Tourism Advocacy Day. So Mark Dorr and NISHTA and the Tourism Industry Coalition that's our day to let Albany know and our legislature know the importance of tourism. So you serve an extra purpose if you come and attend that meeting, because it will also give you an opportunity to show the importance of tourism to our legislators. Because remember, those numbers I showed you, that's just what's in the executive budget. That has to be approved by the legislature. So it's important to make sure our elected officials know the importance of tourism. Luckily, New York State is in a much better position than many states where our elected officials on all sides of government really do understand and have been amazing partners. This has not been one branch of government. This has been a really cooperative effort to make sure that tourism is strong and well-resourced. So, but we always want to make sure, if nothing else, it's always good to say thank you. Legislators love to hear that.
And maybe David might want to think about coming up, or, you know, World Pride, because it would be good for the legislators to hear what's going on around the state, around the city. So a lot of people are hearing that it's happening, but when you go through this presentation, you really get a better sense of all the hard work that you've done and still have yet to do.
Still have yet to do.
Is there going to be a winter challenge this year?
Usually there is, but we
There
don't.
wasn't last year.
Yeah.
It's sometimes weather dependent.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just summer this year, so haven't heard yet. But if there is, that's sometimes February or March.
Yeah.
It's already in January, so.
I know. We'll keep you posted. Yes.
Well, I realize this is focusing on World Pride, but the recent announcement of the Woodstock Festival at Watkins Glen, can you talk a little bit about, with two festivals being in different geographic regions, what your strategy might be for capturing people in different parts of the state for that?
It's a pretty easy strategy. New York, I Love New York loves all our children. Any event that is bringing visitors to New York State, we're excited about. I think the way these two events, at least so far as they're being talked about, are being structured, I also think they appeal to different demographics. You know, one is about sort of a multi-day camping experience. Another one is about, kind of a cultural festival. So I'm not sure that it necessarily speaks to the same audiences, but I think, as usual, I think the acts will make a difference once those are announced. So from our perspective, it's all good. And so we'll be promoting any opportunity for people to commemorate Woodstock, whether that's at Watkins Glen or whether that's at Bethel Woods.
Thank you.
Okay. So, it sounds like someone on the phone wants to talk.
Yes, Christine, this is Jim here.
Hey, George.
I was wondering if David and Dan can share some information with Kelly so that I can pass it on to the New York City Marriott hotels, the concierge special.
Sure. You mean Kelly and Curtin? Or no, Kelly, so you'll get it to them. You'll get it to George.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're currently working on a sponsorship with Marriott, but just overall event calendar, I think we can share that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and George, we'd love to share with you the New York State activities as well. Folks may want to take day trips out to the island or up to Hudson Valley, so we'd love that.
All right, terrific. Well, it's 12:30, so we will call it, we're right on time, 12:32. So we're going to call the meeting to be adjourned. I don't need a second for that, do I?
I don't think so.
All right, we're good. Thank you very much. Stay dry. Use your hat. The benefits of coming in person, you get a hat.
Stuff, right?